Hey everyone. Today we're going to talk a little bit about this new 3039R. We've got the 320R loader and got a cool cab on it. So it's not going to be a review, but this is a new tractor to me, and I'm pretty familiar with lots of other green tractors and some orange tractors. There's one over there. Can't really see it. I'm hoping to have more orange tractors soon, and I'll talk about, I think I need to do a video talking about just why you see so many green tractors in here and just one orange tractor. There's a good reason, but, and you may not love it. I don't love it, but it is what it is. So this is a brand new tractor to me. It's the first one I've had with a cab, and I've learned a lot over the past few years with HydrosPlus, and as you might expect, I'm going to be making a bigger hydraulic pump, which I already have a prototype for, and we're going to go pretty big on this one. And the prototype on this one is actually also there's a prototype coming for the large frame 2R. I'm not 100% sure that it's not too big, and what I mean by that is you do have some limitations as you get larger and larger. Plumbing kinda is one, but I did a video recently on why plumbing doesn't matter that much. What actually matters more is cooling. And I think we'll be fine on this tractor as well as the 2R. You've got some pretty good size reservoirs, which is a big factor in cooling. And you also have, coolers, and we've already added one to the 1 series, and I do expect to add one at least to the large frame 2R. Hadn't really thought about this one just yet. I mean, I always want to add hydraulic cooling. There's really no downside to that. But what's feasible, could come into play, obviously. So because I've learned so much, I'm thinking I'm going to try to kind of take you along on the journey of this tractor, more so than I have in the past. I won't get into why that didn't make as much sense for me in the past, but I think where I'm at now, given the products that I have available and on the shelf, that I feel like I can sustain myself and maybe go, I'm not going to say I'm going to go a little slower. I'm probably going to go about the same speed, because all the things I've learned have made me a whole lot faster. But if I make videos and do things like that, it's going to be just at least a little bit slower. The biggest factor typically in getting something to market, like as an example, these hydraulic cylinders, is, it seems like, and if you go on the internet, you'll have plenty of people out there saying, well, you can just grab one and slap it on here. And that's true. You can do that. But there are some trade-offs. Everything in the world, in life, has trade-offs, right? Do you want a black nitride rod? If you don't care about that, then that's one trade-off that's not really a trade-off to you. But if you want to make sure that it'll go down just as far as it does today and just as high as it does today, that is something that is likely going to require a modification to this if you don't build a custom hydraulic cylinder. And in the case of this, we're going to have some challenges that I didn't really, I'll be honest, I go to the dealership and I look at these tractors, but I don't look at them terribly hard until I get one. If I'm going to develop a product for a tractor, I generally am going to own it, or I'll have somebody that I know that has ready access to it. The one exception of that so far is I don't own a L-series Kubota, but I do have products for that. But only one product, which is the cylinders for the LA 324 through 26 loader, and I think the LA 463 also fits. But all that said, I do have access to one. I just don't have as ready access as I typically want to have if I'm developing products. Now, one of the things I didn't really notice as I was looking at these tractors, and I kind of made an assumption, is how much room we've got right here. As you can see, this weld here, that's kind of where the actual bore starts. And we cannot make from here, roughly here, back any wider because it only fits in here. So we can make this part wider, which is great, but looking at it right here, we're going to have to slide it down just a bit. If you want to keep the same geometry, then if you slide it down here, you've got to bring it in here. And there's actually even a different challenge on this end of it because you can't see it now because we have it extended just a bit. But if you pull this all the way back, it actually is already almost touching this. I mean, that, I don't know why, but that side seemed to be off at about maybe a 16th to an 8th. And this one was, it was a 32nd, it's just right there on it. So if you make this bigger, then we've got to figure out a way to get it away from this bar here. And there's not very many options for that without changing something like this, changing this whole assembly here, not so much this, but this. The other thing we could do is potentially, and it could solve for both, is we could come all the way down to here with the cylinder like you see on that tractor. These pieces here, for this loader, are not functional other than it lets you have the cylinder a little bit further back, I guess, and you can have a shorter overall assembly on the cylinder. But you'll see other tractors, Kubota may have one, maybe, I can't think of one right off the top of my head, but like where the bore starts here, it may only start here, and all of this will be what we consider the connection or the tang part of it, and you'll actually go ahead and connect directly into there. Now this linkage could come into play on whenever you have a mechanically self-leveling loader, which this one is not. And the reason it is in play is because you have to have some parallelism on between that assembly and then what you have on this part of it so that it can remember, as it goes up and down. But that's really not a factor on here. I guess they just put those on there because of distance and that type of thing. But I don't know. I don't know why they did it. But that is one way that we could solve for it or we could do nothing. But I think if we're going to make bigger cylinders here, then we really do need bigger cylinders here since it's not mechanically self-leveling, simply because if you pick something up that's high up here and you want to put it down, or you lift something up from the ground and it's really heavy, you cannot curl back as you go down. That means it'll go like this. So anyhow, that's some of the things that I already have a good background in understanding exactly how that stuff needs to work. I've already got some ways in my head that we can potentially solve for those. But that's the stuff that takes the extra time, and a lot of it, honestly, is prototyping and experimentation until we get something that works, or we confirm that it doesn't work, which I hope is not the case, because that's going to be a pretty expensive machine for us to just put a hydraulic pump on, which is going to be better, but not as exciting. Now, on this tractor I mentioned, they've got a hydraulic prototype that is coming, and if it works, and I'll have to do more testing on it than I typically do, because we're going up pretty significantly, I would say. We're going from where it is today, we're going to roughly double what it has. What it has today is somewhere in the 8 to 9 gallon per minute range. And we're going to be up in the 16, 17 gallon per minute range if what we're trying to do works. And the reason we want to go to 16 to 17 gallon per minute range, especially on this tractor, is because it is big enough to wield. I got my skid steer shoes here. It's big enough to wield some smaller skid steer appliances, and not only, we're going to make some. Can you see over there? There's a brush that I haven't done anything with in a while, but I'm ramping that up. But anyhow, that's the thing that can be exciting, because standard flow on a skid steer, the smaller ones, starts at around 16 gallons a minute. If we can get 16 to 17 out of this machine, then we could potentially grab some smaller skid steer implements, as well as some HydrosPlus implements that could run really well on this machine. So before I ramble too much longer, I thought what I would do, I would think I'm a little bit unique in my point of view on a tractor, because one, I'm looking at it from a HydrosPlus point of view, right? How do we modify it? Whether it is the engine, we're going to add an intercooler to this particular one, or maybe some programming that gives it a little more horsepower while ensuring we still have emissions compliance, or is it the hydraulic pump or the other modifications we can make, like the cylinders. So that's one of my points of view. The other is I have quite a few compact and subcompact tractors. All of the green ones are here except for one, which is very similar to this one. It's the 2038. But that point of view is different in that I've driven a lot of different, at least John Deere tractors as well as orange tractors. And maybe the third thing is I'm also an end user just like you guys are now, or a lot of you guys are. My favorite tractor is still over there, the 1 Series. I'm going to pick it every time. Well, I was going to pick it every time unless it's really cold or really hot, then now this one may get some favor. But at this point, that's still my favorite tractor and the one I like to use the most. But this is a different point of view, right? This is not one I'm going to take through my yard, but it is definitely one I'm going to use out here at the shop probably a little bit more. If I need to lift heavier pallets, before HydrosPlus, I can actually lift more with my 2038 and that 330/25 right now. But as we get bigger cylinders on it, it may be the go-to tractor for that. But since I have this kind of weird smattering of experience, I thought, and this is not gonna be a review, but I thought I'd kind of share at least my impressions of the machine and, as I get a little more familiar with it. This is also a little bit odd in that I've only driven 2 in my life. One is, they both belong to Tim Marks, and one is a 3046 that he has, it's open station, and then his other one that he calls Old Salty, that is it's a 33, or what we call a 3X20, which is really the same platform as this in almost every way. Now, it does have a different hydraulic pump, but the loader, if you have the H165 or the 300CX, it is identical to, I think, to this loader, and I think maybe the 300X, but my research isn't complete on that. So maybe at least those 3 loaders are the same, maybe one other. So that said, I just don't have a lot of experience. I've got, some feedback on, that I've watched saying, hey, these cables that control the joystick are kind of a pain. And I'll be honest, these seem to be loose on mine. I think it's even worse than the one that Tim has. I don't know if that means they're loose or if they're not adjusted, but mine are pretty janky. And this thing only has less than 100 hours on it. So that all indications point to that just kind of being how they are. But hopefully we can make, if mine are broken, then I can fix it, or maybe we will find a way to make it a little bit better, even if we have to replace them. I don't know. I don't love them so far. They're not so hard to pull for me on this one. It's just the whole joystick seems to be loose. But anyway, I'm going to kind of take you for a ride, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, here we are in the cab, and you've probably seen if you're interested in these tractors, you've probably seen a lot of videos that do the same thing that I'm doing right now. But the only thing I'll mention before I get going, I'm going to have to figure out how to put my camera or change camera or something, is this is the first cab that feels like a cab to me, I'll say. I've only been in the Mauser cab, I think, on the 1 Series, and I don't think I've been in one on the 2 Series, but on the 1 Series, I spent a lot of time flying around in my previous life, and I feel like this cab is like, if you ever were lucky enough or unlucky enough to be, fly so much that you might get upgraded to first class. I did a few times, but for the most part, I would get first class on small, like regional jets, like an Embraer or at the most, usually like the MD-88s or the, maybe the 318s. So I'm telling you all this to say that this cab is like 757 and above first class, maybe 737 if you've ever flown in one of those. In that it feels like real first class. I think 757 is like the first like real first class, and I've never even been up on like 747 first class, but that I've seen pictures and it looks awesome. But the first class on an Embraer 175 is kind of like a 1 Series cab. Like, you're in first class, but you're I mean, you're still, like, you don't have a whole lot of legroom, and you don't have a whole lot of extra room, and you're not really, you necessarily feeling like first class. This is kinda like 757, I think. It's like, I'm in a cab, I've got some room. Now, my foot here, one thing I don't like, I don't like is right here, I get a little bit kinda tied up. I'm not huge, but I'm also not small. Brakes, it's a Hydro, so nobody really uses them. But otherwise, it's fairly comfortable. I've got my air ride seat, which is pretty cool. And I'm embarrassed to say how long it took me to find the four-wheel drive lever that I needed, because I don't have any rear ballast on this right now, and I don't know what those things weigh, but they're pretty heavy, probably about 700 pounds a piece. So the four-wheel drive lever, if you're somebody who doesn't have one, is right here. I looked all over for it. Most of the time on all of the tractors that I have, it's down there somewhere, or the 1 Series is over here. But this one is right there. That is not where I looked for it for a long time. But let me show you this. This is like how this doesn't do anything. And if I wobble it like this, if I go back and underneath and look at the actual cables that go and connect to the valve, they're not even shaking. I mean, this is just all slop. And I hope I can take this off and tighten that up some, but we'll see. 3R is an e-hydro, has this kind of rollout thing. I don't even care for the choice. Like, I would rather not have this button, but it is supposed to be a feature. And I don't know that I'll be able to show it, but this particular tractor, like, when you try to just ease into it jerks just a little bit at first. So that's kind of odd to me. And not what I'm used to feeling like with any of my others, but they're also not e-hydros, so maybe that's part of it. If anybody knows what that button does, I haven't Googled it yet, so I have no idea. I need to do that soon. But that's kind of it. Let me see if I can change my camera angle, maybe talk a minute, and then that'll be all for this one. All right, I changed cameras, and we are going to, let's see here. Go ahead and start her up, and if you can see that, you can see 97 hours. Not good with extra camera angles here. One other thing is there's a bolt. I pulled this off recently, and just because when I got it, I was like, this thing is all janky, but I don't think that's normal. So again, we only have 97 hours on it, and I guess maybe that's something that came loose and nobody ever fixed it. So let's go ahead, but like this, well, you can definitely tell that's heavy. And can you tell? I'm going to ease into the hydro and just see if it makes, if you can see it or I can see it. Yeah, it just kind of jerks at first, and it's not bad unless you're trying to go slow, or I'm going to put it in four-wheel drive because my rear end's off the ground. If you're just trying to go slow or ease into something with forks, especially if it's a new tractor, it's kind of one of those things that, definitely not used to the loader just yet. But this does have a 3-range transmission, which is pretty cool. Check that out. Man, it's so muddy here. I think I'm gonna just drive on the road. There's a school over to the side. I'm gonna go drive over there maybe. Let's see here. So, like first range, you can go every bit of 4. No shift on the fly here. B range, we can do 8.5. And then C range, oops, we can get going. But as you notice, like it with even 39 horsepower pulling this gear, which I think I've seen somewhere in the range of 18. I mean, we're still climbing here. We're not even. So it's definitely still a compact tractor. It's not a huge powerhouse, at least at this point. This is a small incline, I would say, just a couple of degrees, and it's, we can't pull full speed. It's definitely boggy. Now we're going downhill. 19. Couldn't quite get 20. We're gonna cut my rollout set a little bit easy. Turn around here. Well, I mean, let me just rev it up here. That is a high, that's the highest of gears I think that this tractor is going to pull. I'm sure the 46 does a little better, but that's what we can do on this one. Oh, bouncy. But it is nice to have a cab. Don't have any wind noise. And I would say I wouldn't want to go much faster than this. The front doesn't have any slop in it, I would say, but you can get yourself into a funny situation if you're not careful. See anybody? When I was younger, I thought I was clever. One day I was out raking hay, and I was going down this pretty good hill, and it was on an old Ford 5000. There was a construction version and painted orange, or not orange, yellow. And I thought I was clever, so I hit the clutch so that I could, speed up going down the hill. Well, the steering on thing was like this, and I almost didn't make it. I mean, I just barely got it under control before I flipped it over. So that was fun. But that's it for what I wanted to show you, I think. Is there anything else I wanted to show? No? I mean, the thing that I'm excited about, this guy's off, is, it's a new tractor, so everybody's excited about a new tractor, but the fact that it's the same platform basically as the 3X20, they started those back in 2005. So we're looking at 20 years of a platform that we can build upon. And while the hydraulic pumps are different, they're similar enough that having my supplier retool between this pump and another pump is a lot less than it would be if we had to just go with this pump only, or a brand new pump, not this pump only. So I'm excited about that. I think that things are going to come pretty quick, and except for the engine modifications, I think the other things will come pretty quick. But if you're a tractor lover, or if you've got a 3R and you're interested, I do plan on taking this thing through the paces of, I want to know what's its turbo boost, what is its horsepower. We'll put it on the power comparison apparatus. I need to do a lift test, of course, and maybe a few other things just to kind of get our baseline. That's one of the things I have to do to make sure it makes sense to make a change. Like, for instance, if the tractor could already lift like 4,000 pounds, which I don't think is the case, but if it could, then I wouldn't mess with hydraulic cylinders. Or if it had 20 gallons per minute. But according to the specs, it does not have that, and so I do need to do my own testing, but ultimately we'll get those numbers, and that way we can compare to any of the improvements that we make. Well, that's it for this one. Questions, comments, leave them below as always, and thanks for watching.